Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Exploring Brain and Mind. And my guest today is the lovely Christine Mullaney. And Christine is a certified brain, and you would mess it up. A certified brain-based communications coach and a qualified culture trainer. And she also...
I'm going to jump in, Elke. I'm sorry. I don't
Yes,
mean to interrupt you, but it's
that's fine.
brain-based conversations because the next step in the training is brain-based communication, and I don't want to misrepresent the certification. So
That's fine. That's fine.
it's
Yeah,
just
you
to
correct
clarify.
me. That's
If
good.
you want, we can stop and start again. Just stop the recording and restart.
No, that's
Like
fine.
that'll be
That's
easy.
fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Grand.
Keep it live.
Okay, perfect.
So, I listened to one of your podcasts and it got me totally engrossed because I found out about neuroculture and neuro leadership. And how did you get into all this?
I got into neuro leadership and neuroculture through neuro language. So it was definitely a ladder. I was an English language teacher for a number of years and a sales manager in a few different things. And then just before pandemic hit, I went back and did some training, which is called neuro language coaching training. So this is a concept created by a woman called Rachel Paling, and I've interviewed her on my podcast as well, which blends the neuroscience of learning with language coaching. So bringing someone through learning a language from a coaching approach, not from the what would have been like the standard directive teacher approach. I tell you this, you learn it and remember it, and we flip it into the coaching approach. So I took that training at the end of 2020. No. When was the pandemic?
Started March 2020.
Okay, March 2020. So at the end of 2019, I took that training just before or beginning of 2020. And then pandemic hit. So what did I do? But the same as everybody else, my contract finished, it wasn't renewed, jobs were being lost everywhere, and I started to coach. So started initially with English language. It naturally morphed itself as I brought in new clients into pronunciation and diction, which is one of my specialities, and went on from there to expand further into a need from my clients for international communications. So some of them are in global firms working with headquartered USA firms, but out of Europe and out of Asia. And culture is incredibly important there. But on top of that, we've got how the brains of people are working. And during a pandemic, panic, as you no doubt know with your background, the challenge and the change that everybody was going through in that time necessitated a learning of a different way to be able to adapt online to different cultures, to different brains, to help people through their panic and their fear. And that's what I do. I teach people how to do that through communication.
That's very interesting. Yeah, the pandemic caused a lot of changes, didn't it? And a lot of panic, and the spreading of fear was just incredible.
It
And
was.
yeah, and what you say about yeah, bringing people together online and different cultures, and yeah, I love that. I love kind of exploring different backgrounds as well, and languages and things. And as I mentioned before we started recording, dabble in a variety of different languages, and it's intriguing. And what I learned even in younger years was that you cannot literally translate things, because that's especially if you like in a business world and you do that, and it's a massive faux pas, it's coming out that people totally misunderstand it. It's so important to get a feel for not just the language itself, but the culture of the background of the language, isn't it?
Yeah, the context of the language and how it's taken. I mean, one of the most enjoyable things to study when you study business, which I did. I studied to master's level for marketing. And one of my favorite subjects was studying the mistakes that different organizations have made around the world because they didn't look up the meaning of their word or their brand name in the country they were bringing it into. And some of them have been highly insulting. You know, Parker Pen told everybody that they wouldn't, the pen, basically the message was it won't burst in your pocket and make you pregnant. Because they used embarazada in Espanol, in Spanish for the ad. And embarazada is not embarrassed. Embarazada is pregnant in Spanish. That was one of the best lessons I ever did at college. But there are really good ones. There are really good examples. And
you got another two.
Pardon?
Have you got another two?
Have I got another two examples?
Or maybe one?
Oh, there's one of Coca-Cola. They brought in a new drink to Mexico. I think it was a type of water, a flavored water. Was it Coca-Cola? Maybe it was Pepsi. One of them brought in a new type of flavored water to, I think, the Mexican market, and they named it quite a rude name, or like a name that was low in energy. So it essentially sold the opposite of what it was supposed to be. A car company did the same. Skoda or one of them, again in a South American country. No, was it Japan? You say I don't have them factual, but there was one car company that brought in a model that had sold incredibly well in other countries, but they brought the same name into Japan or somewhere like that, and the meaning of the name was an insult or was a word that you wouldn't use. So nobody, or was bad luck or something along those lines. So people wouldn't.
Yeah, in Japan, you've got to watch. You've got to watch even with the numbers. Sometimes I think they don't like number 4. I think there was something about the number 4 in Japan.
Yeah, there are no. Well, in China, I haven't been in Japan, but in China there are no lifts, number 4 lifts in a building.
Oh, right.
Just like on a Ryanair flight, there are no number 13 seats.
Oh, right. Okay. Superstitions.
Yeah. Yeah, that exist in business.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the connection of language and the brain. Can you a bit elaborate on that?
Yeah. Well, from what angle, if I may ask?
Any angle that comes to mind right now.
Okay. Okay, so let's think about how language can work in the brain in comparison to different aspects that we might learn.
Yeah.
So we have different parts of our brains which process different things in different areas. So the things that I process from a societal perspective, for example, societal vocabulary, that's in one little part. Well, maybe it's not in one part. Like it's probably bouncing off lots of different parts because it connects with memories as well. But mathematical is in one section. Social language is in another section. Internal language is in another section. And they all there's an interplay between all of them, which pulls together how we see the world, how we see other people, how we see ourselves, the words we use to talk to ourselves, to talk about ourselves, to talk about other people. And they all dance together in this beautiful little show to become us, I suppose, what we are. And language in the brain is really important, because the brain, it's really hard for the brain to tell the difference between something that's familiar and something that's real or true or untrue. So as long as I have familiarity with something, then and I feel good about it, my brain thinks, oh yeah, that's great. So if I have familiarity around certain language and I'm constantly using that language, you've got NLP behind you, you know this, then I'm teaching myself to believe true the words that I'm using. And that then influences how I can show up for myself and how I can show up for other people. So language in the brain is incredibly important.
What I always find interesting is going a bit towards NLP as well, is this, that words, even though words are only 7%, according to studies as well, that when you do NLP, you learn that there's so much more to words really than, it's the use of it's the words themselves, but it's the meaning, I suppose, that makes them powerful, the meaning that you attach to them. And it's not necessarily just one meaning that you can attach to a word. It can be more than one meaning, more than one meaning, depending on sometimes if the word is viewed well by from people from different backgrounds and stuff.
It's true. Let me just jump back very quickly, if I may, to the 7%.
Yeah.
That's Meriband's research.
Right.
From the I think it's the 1970s or something, 50s or 70s. I mean, that research was done on something like a population of, it's either 100 or 1,000, maybe not even 1,000. I think it was fewer students in a university in the US. It's not representative of the world. So the suggestion that the language that we use and our words are only 7% of our communication, for me, is absolutely not true. Because if I stand in front of you and I use dreadful words, I'm incredibly insulting, and I disregard everything about the people that I'm speaking to, it doesn't matter how wonderful I look, how good I smell, how present I am on the stage. If I stand up and I insult an entire room of people, 100% of my words matter. So this constant repetition that I hear of this, it's only 7%. Your body is 83% or 85%. It's yes, the body is expressive. Yes, there are particular aspects that relate to natural emotions inside us, which have been demonstrated to be the same across populations. So this is Paul Ekman's research, and he found that we have these, these micro expressions that indicate our emotions and our feelings. But I think, and I will come back to connotation of words in a sec, that nowadays so much has been learned, firstly, about human behavior and about micro expressions and how people act to get certain things. I think there's been so much research done and so much shared about the behaviors of people. And we've so much more exposure to different types of wording and communication through social engineering, for example, that simply reading the gestures and behaviors of another and allocating like 83% of their communication capacity to all of those behaviors and not trying to hear the words or not giving greater weight to their words, it risks alienation and exclusion of people, because someone who's neurodivergent can't communicate in the same way expressively on their bodies and in their faces as somebody who is what the world is calling neurotypical. We can talk about connotations of words there. but so yeah, just that statistic, I want people to start questioning that statistic. It's old, it's not representative of the world, and it needs to be readdressed. Plus, this brain is allowing people to manipulate in ways that they have never manipulated before. And that means that they can mask their behaviors really, really well. For connotation and meaning, you made me think, I think it's the word sweat. And I know this sounds like it's either sweat or spit or something like that. It's got like 7 or 11 different meanings in English. And that's just in English alone. So, when you look up a word on Google and you see one entry or two and you think, oh, that's the meaning. But actually, if you click the arrow or words, then you'll know, right, that's the verb form. But then there's going to be a noun form underneath here, and there's an adjective form. And then I might add a preposition to it, or I might add another word, and that will change the meaning of it completely. And then you go across different languages, as you said, the different backgrounds, the color of the world is different. And how you perceive the world is different. So like in Irish, we've loads of different words. I don't have my books here with me now, the ones I'd like to reference, but red is a beautiful example. So in Ireland, we have rua and we have jarrag. They're two words in the Irish language, but they're both a red, but they're a different shade of red. So the rua is the red of the fox. So it's like that beautiful orangey kind of wispy, reddy sort of color. And then jarrag is red of Red Riding Hood's cloak, for instance. But research has shown, there's loads of interesting research in terms of how we see the world. So I'm looking away because I'm trying to pull the study. I think it was Japan that it was done in. And they did research on people's memories and giving evidence then in different languages. And what they found was that when people were giving evidence in their first language, the language that they're most comfortable in, I can't say embellished, but like the stories were richer of the memories that they had. Whereas, and more emotional. There was more emotion attached to the stories, so the memories were greater. Whereas in their second or their third language, the memories were less rich, they were less detailed, they were much less emotional. So it seems from what research is finding is that people report it, that when you communicate in your second or third or fifth, whatever it is, language, if you don't have the relationship with it, the emotional relationship with it that you do to the language that you grew up speaking, you are more analytical when making decisions. You're more distanced from the emotions of the situation, so you can make less emotionally charged decisions and come to less emotionally charged solutions on things.
That makes complete sense to me,
actually.
Yeah,
it's fascinating. It's fascinating. But connotation is great. You know, I mean, it's great and it's dangerous, I suppose. Like I could use a word. Do you know, it's a great example. In Chinese, in Mandarin, they have the ma, 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 tongue twister. So it's like ma, 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 I think is how it goes. That's the tones.
Okay.
There's 4 tones in Chinese or in Mandarin. And so one of the ma's means horse, and one of the or horse or pig, and one of the ma's means ma, your mum. So you have to be careful not to call your mum a pig.
Yeah.
Or your partner's mum a pig, for example. You know. But that's a pronunciation aspect as opposed to connotation. So then I think of others with connotation. No, I've been talking loads, so I'm gonna hand it back to you.
No, that's good. That's good. That's an interesting example. I'm not familiar with Chinese, I have to say.
Well, with Mandarin, because that's Mandarin specifically.
Mandarin,
Cantonese is different.
Yeah, that's true. That's two different. Is it 2 languages in China? Is it just Mandarin and Cantonese? Is there more
there are more.
Considering the vast size of the country as well?
Yeah, there are more. There are local dialects then, and like any country, you're going to find local dialects. But the Han is one of the biggest descendant dynasties in China. So I think they have a particular dialect.
No, it's incredible, but it also your the example with the Chinese saying there that shows again the importance of the voice in delivery.
Yeah, it does. But even positioning, I'm thinking of Italian now. So let me give it as an easy example. In English, we would say the train arrives at 9, right? We wouldn't say at 9 the train arrives. We would just say the train arrives at 9, because the important part is the train and it arrives at 9. But in Italian, you can switch that. It's like il treno arriva alle or a 9 ora or something like that. But they can flip that sentence to a 9 ora il tren arriva. And I think my words are a little bit off there. I might be speaking Spanish as well.
That's all right.
But that's the shape of it. So I can move. I have flexibility in Italian, in Spanish, in a few other languages with certain words and positioning. And that's what indicates my emphasis. So it's why you might get somebody in a meeting or a presentation reply to you and they seem like their language is unstructured. And they say something like, at 9, the meeting starts. And you think, why did they say it like that? But what the Italian person is trying to do is emphasize to you the time, that it's 9 o'clock. They're changing the importance of the positioning. So you've languages like that. And then you've got, what are they called? This word always escapes me. Agglutinative languages. So Turkish and Malay, I think, is one as well. And this is where you add more to the ends of words. And that's what changes the meaning of the word. So instead of having like sentence blocks of phrases like we'd have in English, they have a word. And each time you add something to the word, the concept of it changes.
Changes.
Yeah. So there's there's all sorts of different types of things in language, and some things translate directly and easily if there's a relationship, particularly between the languages, and others there are similarities. So like across a lot of languages there are similar concepts idiomatically, like there's always a silver lining, or the clouds always have a silver lining or something like that. That concept, it might not be the same words. They might say the sun always comes from behind the clouds, or they might say the moon always shines eventually, or something. The words are a bit different, but the essence is the same. And then you've got others that are totally different, false friends. So things like sensitive and sensible. If I say I'm sensitive, is it soy for a characteristic, or estoy? So, soy sensitiva in español is I'm sensible, but in English we would think it means I'm sensitive. So you've got the false friends is what they're called. They seem to be the same word across languages, but they're different.
Yeah. That's one thing really to watch out when we deal with languages, to make sure that the connotation is right, and it's got that brings the right message across.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, because of globalization, there is greater acceptance and understanding in the non-English speaking world of error, of inability, and maybe faux pas, making a faux pas, making a mistake. There's more acceptance of it because people who grew up learning English or another language, as you probably know, Elke, I think you told me you had a different language base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my language base is German.
Yeah. So you grew up, as do so many others who have to learn English to survive in the world, because English is the language, the business language of the world, with a healthy respect for the differences across languages and the similarities, and an understanding to a greater extent than someone who has never learned a language, a second language, that how we see the world is not the same in different languages. I mean, how we see the world is not the same anyway, but when we take language into it, my perspective of the world is shaped firstly on Ireland and on the Irish language and on the English language. And then it got shaped by all the other languages that I got exposed to. So there's a greater understanding of people trying, and an acceptance of each other, and less, to an extent, less judgment when people try and do their best, compared to people who come out of English speaking countries, many, and I'm not saying everybody is the same, I will never generalize like that, but there's a tendency to see that, particularly those who have never learned another language, have a bias that they're unaware of. So when they go in to speak to somebody who's coming from a second language, from a different language into English, there's an expectation of capacity that is often greater than the capacity is. And organizations will hire people with a certain language capacity, and then if they can't perform, be negative about them. And say, well, they're not good enough, this language isn't good, this, that, and the other. And then you have to look at them and go, but hang on a second, what's your hiring practice like? Because you hired them. So you hired them at the capacity they were at. More respect and awareness needs to be afforded, I think, coming out of big companies, particularly that are English generated, that the world doesn't operate in English from your cultural perspective.
Yeah,
it comes from others.
There's much more to it. You've got to get a feel for the country as well, or for the place where you want to go. Excuse me. That was a bit like when I learned English at school and continued afterwards because I loved it and because I always was better at English than I was ever at German from an academic point.
Amazing. That's fantastic.
And I when I started coming over here for the first time as a tourist, it was, for me, it was like coming home. There was something over the years I come to say that I think this you know how they sometimes say in Germany, they do say like the stork brings the kids, the stork brings the babies.
Yes, yes.
And my saying is like the stork dropped me off in the wrong country.
Oh, wow.
Because I came to the UK on a job transfer, but I would have gone anyway, even without that opportunity. Um, and it to me, this is my home. It always felt more my home than Germany. I had good times over there, I had people over there. My family was over there. I still have relatives. This is my home. And there is no, I would never want to go back to live there. To visit, yes, but I'm always happy to come back home. This is my home. This country is
Isn't
my
that
home.
fabulous? That's great. It's lovely to have found that.
Mm.
Yeah. Which part of the UK are you in?
I'm in the West Midlands now.
Okay.
I used to live in Scotland for 13 years as well.
Uh-huh.
It was just one of these, yeah, that was my starting point. And lived there and was married and had my son, got divorced, made friends down here. That's why I ended up in the West Midlands. And my son is now in Manchester studying sports broadcasting and sports business because that's something he loves.
Super.
And yeah, this gets me a bit into different accents and things as well.
It does. And that's amazing you told me that. I had a wonderful day in Manchester a few years ago. But my younger brother, he's 25, and I'm writing down the sports broadcasting in Manchester. He did business and he's working in a bank now. I'm not
Okay.
sure he would go back to college, but he really wanted to be a sports broadcaster. That was a
Yeah,
big dream.
the university is UCFB. That's kind of I don't even know the the full name of it
That's all right. I'll
because
find it from that.
my son always told me it's UCFB, and yeah, no, he's quite
Yeah.
happy there. They get a lot of practice work to do in the second year. He didn't like the first year that much, but he liked this. He's really enjoying his second year now.
Super. Super. Yeah, I noted it. Thanks.
You're welcome. So let me yeah, tell me a bit more about this neuroculture, because that kind of got my attention as well, being someone who's always been interested from childhood age in
Into the brain.
other cultures and things like that, how people live in other countries, what different situation. There used to be TV programs that we used to have for children that was talking about other children in other countries and how they lived and all. And I was really interested in that.
I never saw any of them. I don't think. Maybe I did.
That was in Germany
On Germany.
at the time, so you wouldn't have seen
Fair.
those.
But it's funny you mentioned that. Yesterday, what was I doing? I was doing a listening exercise with a group, and it talked about a TV program or a documentary that someone had created about children and their lives. Yeah, just I'm sorry, I'm making a funny link.
That's all right.
I'm saying it out loud. What did you ask me about neuroculture? So, neuroculture, the only other person that I've found that's doing neuroculture and has been doing it longer than me, she's a PhD in the States. Her website is neuroculture.org. And she does it from the perspective of organizational training, blending neuroscience and culture and an understanding of culture in the brain. I don't know what her background is from a culture perspective or training. For me, I add a little to it. So the idea of neuroculture and is blended with communication. So neurocultural communication. It's not just about neuroculture, it's understanding how to take what you learn about the brain and about culture and shape it using words and behavior that resonate with those you communicate. So it's an understanding first of the brain. So we look at things like from the Neuroleadership Institute, where I did my brain-based conversations training, the SCARF assessment, for instance. So SCARF would be the 5 of the key brain drivers that have been found to stimulate people's behavior when they're in threat or reward, for instance. So what we think about there, for example, is let's use the man of the day, shall we? The beautiful Donald Trump. And we put him up there on a stage. Right? And so we look at him, and when we look at him and see how he behaves, and we think about that scarf, we can be fairly certain that he's not looking for fairness, which would be the F. He's not necessarily driven by fairness. What about relatedness, the R? Is he I'm not sure he's too pushed on having to relate to everybody around him, or making sure that everybody is getting on well around him. Okay, grand. But then what about the A, autonomy? Does he like to be autonomous? Yes. Yeah, he's fair. He's fair. Okay, so we've got that A. So he's definitely got a driver of autonomy. He wants to do things himself and how he does it, and that's the way it's going to be. But that can't be it. What about the C? Is he looking for a bit of certainty? Does he need everything to be certain around him? Or is he worried about the world looking uncertain? Or would you say he's fairly comfortable or confident with how things are going with himself?
I think he's well confident in himself, and the way he comes across to me is he cares about his country, which doesn't necessarily mean he might treat, as you say, the rest of them fairly.
Right, exactly. And do you think, like, when he's making his decisions, or he's thinking, maybe I'll insult this country today. Do you think he goes and he says to people, come here, I need data. I need more certainty. I'm not sure about what's happening. Send me reports, give me data. Or is he, would you reckon? And we can't know for sure. We're supposing here, you and I, about this, right?
Well, I suppose he has his team who would give him the data if he wants data or needs data on something.
Yeah. I'd imagine he would. I reckon he asks?
Sorry, I think he wouldn't just make decisions kind of as on a spontaneous level without having any information, any background information on what he wants to make his decision on.
Right. Yeah. I'm not sure I'd agree with you on that. I think I would hope that he wouldn't. He's fairly reactive to me. I'm not sure how much he studies his reports, but then we're supposing. I don't know. I haven't seen him, but I would reckon he doesn't search for high degrees of certainty because he is so certain in his own thinking. That's what I would reckon looking at him.
Yeah, I can kind of relate to that.
But then what about the S? And the S is for status. Does he have a need to feel status? Does he indicate a need to feel important, to feel like the most important person in the room or the place?
I mean, to me, he's coming across as an important person in the room, standing tall, and the way he's posturing himself and all. So I would think that status is important to him as well.
Yeah. It most certainly seems to be so. And again, we can't be sure because we don't know the man. So we have to be careful of the suppositions that we make. However, he has indicated through his behavior, through his attitude, through how he communicates with others in a public domain and by himself in a public domain, that he wants to be seen as the most important person in the room. And so when we think about that, what we've just talked through there, that's the scarf drivers of human behavior. Now, Tony Robbins uses these as well. I think he adds another 2, but they're essentially part of it.
It's similar. Yeah, Tony Robbins has got the 6 human needs.
Yeah, that was it. So they're all the same concept. People just adapt these different concepts and use them for themselves, and then market them in different ways to sell them as a different product. It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
Brain's not that different. So that's what it is. Through the Neuroleadership Institute, you have the SCARF model. There's an assessment that they offer free online, which is it's a gimmicky marketing thing, of course, for them, but it is actually incredibly useful because I give it to my clients before we start if they come for neurocultural communication training. It's not the only coaching that I do. It's one aspect. And when they do it, then we do some training on what the SCARF is about, what it means, the threat and reward systems in the brain. And they begin to understand what can potentially propel them into a threat response in the middle of a meeting. So I've had a crappy morning. I'm feeling really uncertain about my family, about my life, about everything that's happening right now. And now I don't have the data that I need for my presentation because my colleague didn't get it finished in time. So now I'm going to look really bad. I have to pull this data together by myself in 15 minutes before the meeting. Feck all of this. Okay, feck is not a curse word, so we can use feck. I don't know if you curse on your podcast.
I'm not fussed.
Okay, great.
I'm not fussed.
So this is what happens. But what happens then? Boom. I'm in threat response. I am not happy. I'm angry. I'm walking into the meeting. I'm presenting as a bull. And people feel that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the manager, or I'm the chair, or I'm the leader of the meeting. And I notice when my employee walks into the room, what's going on there? She's not right, and she's to present. So if I'm aware and I understand how to work my people in a positive way, not in a manipulative, negative, controlling type of way, but in a caring, kind way, then I recognize she's not feeling right. Guys, just give me 1 second. Look, I'm gonna start the meeting 5 minutes later. I'm sorry, I forgot to do something. Would you give me a hand for a second if you don't mind? And you pull that person out of the room and you look at them and go, what's up? I can see you're not feeling great. Can I help you with anything? And that simple gesture, it just allows them to go, oh, I got seen. Yeah, no, look, everything was a bit difficult this morning. I'm not feeling great. I'm not looking forward to this. It just, well, do you want me to get somebody else to present? What do you want us to do? What do we need to do? No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I can do it. Because somebody just caring for a second can completely shift the mindset. And that's because you recognize the need for it.
Puts the person at ease.
And helps them feel seen. Yeah. And it doesn't have to take long. And this, so, when I'm saying this to you, I'm thinking, okay, now people are afraid. So let's go into the culture part. That's one of the brain aspects. I mean, there's the veto model. You're looking at seeds, biases, and there's lots of different aspects that we do. What we do depends on the person and what they need. But if we go into culture from there now, so we've had that brain experience, we've had that challenge in the meeting, we've brought the person outside. But you're a listener, so let's talk to your listeners here. I'm a listener now, and I'm Italian, or I'm French, or I'm Spanish, or I'm Algerian, or I'm Saudi. I'm from a different country, Indian, Pakistani, wherever you want it to be. And I'm thinking, I can't do that. I can't do that. I look weak. I look like an idiot. I can't pause a meeting. I look like I don't have any control over my timing. This is a decision that you take, either as a manager or as an employee. And in understanding culture and your own position, you then can take it in the right way. So if you're in the UK and you know that the UK operates under a very respectful, subtle type of culture, then you're gonna take it in a way that's gentle, and it won't be obvious to everybody else. If you're in the Netherlands, you might come into the meeting in the Netherlands and go, look, boss, this has been a really, really difficult morning. I need 15 minutes because I can't do this right now. Possibly. I'm not saying you definitely would, but the Netherlands has a much more direct, open culture of communication. So you can be in middle level management and talk to the CEO. And it's not a problem. Again, I can't say that that's the same in all organizations. It depends how the organization is run.
Yeah, it's always like situational as well.
Yeah, everything is situational.
Depends on the person, how the next leader on the top is compared to the one bit further down that has the issues. There's so much more involved. It's never just black and white, is it?
No. Unless you get colorblind. I just want to check with you though. Are you hearing banging behind me? Because there's someone doing work next door. So I'm very sorry to you and your listeners if there's banging behind me.
A tiny little bit. It's not really loud.
Okay, hopefully it won't come across in the recording. Yeah, but apologies if it does. So that's it. I mean, that's a simple example. Like, again, culture is multi-layered and multifaceted. I've lived in 5 countries. I'm staunchly Irish. Like, no matter how many countries I live in or where I go, every test I do, I come out Irish. That's it's not changing. But we call them, what is it? He calls them, I can't remember, horizons, something along that. But it's about, it's kind of like the black mark on your eye, right? The bit that's really, really deep that doesn't change. There are really deep rooted cultural connections. And no matter where we go or how much we travel, it's unlikely they're going to change. And they're what feed our perspectives of the world, our biases, our unconscious decisions to act and snap in a moment. We have them, but then we have how people tend to listen in that country. What the need is in a presentation. So if I'm going in to present to five different nationalities, who do I present to? What do I present? How do I present it? Well, who's the most important person in the room? There's so much to it. It's fascinating.
Yeah, when you've got like a mixed audience, that yeah, I'm sure that's not the easiest thing to kind of bring together. Plus, then you've also got like the different ways that people take in information. Some like the visual, some like the auditory. I'm highly auditory because of my eyesight issues that I've got.
Okay.
And some are kinesthetic. They like taking some action, more like not. They're most of them are, I think, visual. A lot of people are visual. I still use the vision that I've got, but I would be mostly auditory. So
I think. Sorry.
Yeah, no, continue.
I'm not sure, but I think I read somewhere that kinesthetic learners come in top, that it's most common for people to have an aspect of kinesthesia to what they need to learn. And that makes sense, because I don't know if kinesthesia is a word, by the way. I just changed the form of it there. I presume it is. But kinesthetic, yeah. So, and I think that probably comes back to our evolution. Like, as humans, how do we learn? We learn by moving, we learn by exploring and testing things and checking things and finding out if they work. So that's the kinesthetic type of learner in us. But you have gardeners learning principles on top of that then as well. And like, you have a mathematical learner. So some people just don't do words. And no matter what way you talk so I've got a kid, he loves numbers. Was it numbers I said to him? No, he loves little drawings, doing little drawings. And I think he's probably dyslexic. I'm not sure, but I think he probably is. And he's Spanish. And I only have him for an hour a week for English. So it's harder to be able to know. But I think he probably has an aspect of dyslexia to him. And he finds it hard to remember his words and to learn. So I said to him last week, right, every time you learn a new vocabulary word, draw a little picture underneath it. Because he loves to draw. So he'll learn the images. And once he has the image in his mind, he'll put the word to the image. So it's connected thinking. So yeah, we've got kinesthetic, auditory, visual, and oral, but we also have, are you a mathematical brain? Are you a word brain? Are you a musical brain? Does your brain work differently? Your ADHD brain, I'm not going to ask you to sit down and stay still in the middle of my class, because you're not going to learn anything. You know, but you move. So I have this beautiful child, and she absolutely is an ADHD brain. I mean, she's going to be a teacher when she grows up. So a lot of the time now, where I can, I sit on the side of the class and she does the board. So she's bouncing, she's moving, she's telling people no, she's stopping them, she's starting them. And at the same time as her learning the stuff, she's developing her ability to maybe teach or to do something different.
That is brilliant. That is just, it's great to give a child with, or a person with like ADHD or a neurodiverse person the opportunity to do things which suits them best, rather than putting them in the box that the general public, so to speak, is put in, to say you've got to do it a certain way and no different. You know, it's we need to become more flexible to offer people these the chance to do things in a way, in an adapted way that suits their style, their learning style best.
Yep, we do. And that's how I've always taught. If you need to sleep for 5 minutes, you can sleep for 5 minutes. If you prefer to work alone, you can work alone. If you want to do it on the board, you can do it on the board. I'm not in a classroom to dictate. Particularly if I'm teaching English, I already know English. I'm there to facilitate the learning of others. And it's my job to find how they learn best and help them tap into that and be comfortable with it and accept the differences in the classroom in how others like to learn as well.
Oh my gosh, we need more teachers we need more teachers like you, Christine.
There are
We
lots
really
of me out
do.
there. There are lots of me out there. But I'll tell you the truth though, with neurolanguage coaching and Rachel Paling, for me, a teacher who chooses to train with Rachel Paling and in neurolanguage coaching is a teacher like me. Because they're looking at what they do and they're saying, I'm doing something different here. I don't teach like other people. What is this? I need to understand it.
Mhm.
And they're curious and they want to know what they're doing with their own brain and with the brains of the people they work with. And they're bringing them it forwards by going then into that training and learning with her and learning about themselves and the brain and the way that their students learn and taking away that directive approach. That for me is the most important thing, that teachers were trained in many respects as dictators.
Mm.
This is,
Yeah.
and I've said it, this is my classroom. I've said it to my students. I'm human, right? Sometimes when you've 10 mad heads in a class, sometimes you snap a little bit, but then you pull it back on yourself and it's grand. But it's not about me. And the moment they make it about me is the moment they stop bringing education to anybody.
Mm.
Yes, I love it. That part's about me. I love words. I love language. I love it when I bring something and the next day I hear it used. There is no greater feeling than hearing someone produce language that you have helped them shape. For me, well, that's not true. There are many greater feelings, but there are. It's up there. and yeah, I think that's the way the classroom ought to be. Or not just classrooms though, Elke. Everywhere, learning environments, conversations.
Yeah.
Everywhere we are, there are different people who are capable of different things. And when you pay attention, you always find the one who won't push themselves forwards.
Mm.
And if you are able to, you can bring them in. And that can be in a meetings at work, it can be in a networking event, in a classroom, in a training environment. Just notice that one over there just is looking a little unsettled. Let me go check and do it privately. Don't make it look like you're checking anything. You can make it look like you're asking for help or you don't understand something or you're inquiring about something.
Mm.
So they don't feel embarrassed that they've been noticed as the one who isn't doing something. And help them, just pull them out a little bit in a way that works for them and let them be heard and seen. We can do it
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah. That's a good little tip when I go out doing workshops, because that's another plan that I've got. Want to,
Fantastic.
go out and talk to people about the brain, how to keep the brain healthy and well functioning, or emotional intelligence is another one that I enjoyed as part of the training that I've done in recent years. There was a company called Neurolink, and because they train it, they teach it a little bit different, and not like Daniel Goldman. Daniel Goldman in his book, it's like taught as 12 EI competencies.
Mm. Mm. Go on.
And assessments that they offer, the Neuralink ones that I can offer as well, they're different in a way that it's not only you who give your observations about yourself. You get some 2 to 5 volunteers who you're in a good standing with, and you ask them to give observations as well on the different competencies. So that makes that assessment unique.
I don't know. I think there's another assessment that does that. I've
Is
experienced
it
something
another
that
one?
did that before.
Mm.
I don't know if it's on the assessment or maybe it's a part of a training.
Mm-hmm.
It's rare to find something that's completely unique nowadays. There tends to be a semblance of similarity to everything. It's interesting. I think for me, I'm not a fan of assessments that label too much. Like I do the SCARF assessment and we talk through the aspects that the person presents as as demonstrating whether they're high in status or they're high in relatedness, and typically people are very high in fairness. But it doesn't become them, because they're drivers. So you're not a status person. That's something that drives you because maybe something happened in your youth that you weren't heard or seen, and you have a need to be seen now. And so emotions, I think emotions are misunderstood. So I do. I've been pondering that a lot this week, actually.
Yeah, I agree with you on that point. I don't like labels either. I don't like, for example, I don't like the disabled label. I've got a visual impairment, but I don't see myself as disabled. Like disabled for me means like you're not able for anything. It like I think puts people down. Different able I can live with. Differently able, something like that. But I haven't found the right word for me yet.
That's fair enough. I can understand that. I've read quite a bit around this. I've read people who say differently abled is a pile of shit. You know, they don't want to hear it. And then there are others who do. But it's the same as, you know, I am autistic. I have autism. I have an ADHD brain. I am ADHD. It's connotation. How long do you have? But it's about, that's the words we use, isn't it? That's how we look at ourselves, our reflection of ourselves. I'm never, so I'm on an ADHD exploration journey at the moment. And I'm probably at the point where I should be saying, yeah, I self-identify as having an ADHD brain, but I don't want to, I'm not going to say I have ADHD, because for me, it's not, I'm not disordered. I'm perfectly capable of functioning in the world. Just because you built the world in a way that doesn't work the way that I work doesn't mean that that I have a problem. It just means that you've built the world in a particular way that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I like that.
So yeah, I think it's important probably how we take it for ourselves. And I'm getting annoyed with people. Like, say if I was in a wheelchair and I'm okay with being called disabled, but my best friend is also in a wheelchair and they're not okay with being called disabled. They want to be called differently abled, right? The only difference between us is that we accept a different connotation, a different word for our life experience, or our physical experience. Maybe even it's not life experience, physical. And we can be best friends and we can accept both of those labels. But one of us, I don't know, is really angry or resentful towards the world, or hasn't overcome trauma and hates everybody for using the other term that they don't accept, and gets angry when other people use it, and it upsets them and it eats at them. And then the other person is like, whatever, you use that word if that word works for you, as long as it's not pejorative, you know, it's not insulting or negative, intentionally hurtful.
Yeah.
And which one of them likely lives a happier existence? The one who accepts, because the other one is just eating themselves up. They're not annoying anybody else by being angry at them. They're annoying themselves. Every time I'm angry at another person, I'm only hurting myself.
And then internally it creates like this disharmony within the person as well, because it's all the hormones, the cortisol, whatever is kind of going on, you know, it doesn't just affect the mind, and it will affect the physiology as well in the end if it's ongoing.
Yeah, absolutely. Stomach problems, breakouts on the body, tiredness, you know, lots of different things will be affected.
Yeah. Well, slowly coming to the end of our time, Christine. It's is there anything that you might want to add? Anything to promote?
Yeah, I have my podcast. Do please go. What was the episode you said you listened to? Oh yeah.
It was the one about, it was called Carrots and Communication, I think. It was absolutely excellent. episode. That really got me on track.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm gonna listen to a lot more of them now.
So, yeah, and you can let me know which ones what type of content you're interested in. I can guide you towards a couple of them. Super. I'm glad you enjoyed that one. My sister's friend inspired that. He's one of my listeners over in France. And they had a conversation one day about the meaning of pomme de terre. Because like we talked about connotation, yeah? The apple of the earth and then the apple of the eye. And, I could talk about words all day. I'm gone now. Yes, my podcast, please do listen. Please do like, follow, subscribe, connect with me on social media and let me know what you think. I'm also hosting a free workshop for women on the 20th of March. So at the moment of solstice. Solstice is at 10:01 a.m. in Europe. So it would be 9:01 a.m. in the UK. We're going to start at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock CET time. And it'll be a free, I think you put it down for 90 minutes, workshop on what I call wielding your wisdom. So it's a workshop for women on how to understand the evolutionary sources of confidence, how we develop our confidence and how confidence shifts over time, courage, the development and building of trust, and tapping into our inner Irish or Celtic warrioress and her characteristics so that we can, let's say, ignite the courage inside us every time we need to speak and stop holding ourselves back. So
I like that. I like that idea of that workshop. The problem I have at the moment is that the episode might go out after April.
Oh, that's fair enough. Well, we see. What am I going to promote for after April? No, just do the podcast then. Yeah, the podcast on my Instagram is fine.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So let's do that again. Are you going to cut this?
I will. Yeah.
Right.
Cut this.
Okay. So just cut the workshop. Yeah. So follow the podcast. And then we can add this bit in. And I'm on Instagram at Connected Communication. So it's the same name as my podcast, connected_communication. You can follow me there, connect with me there, or over on LinkedIn, Christine Mullaney.
It was absolutely fantastic to have you on. And it might well be possible that I ask you again to come back.
Oh, sure, I'd be
because considering you're just mentioning wisdom in some context, so I might dig into that at some point, because that's another subject, brain, mind, wisdom. Could be another podcast episode.
Absolutely. I mean, we could talk about like the connotations and meaning of wisdom in different cultures, when we become wise, at what the different types of wisdom. I mean, just give me a word and let's go.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for being my guest today, Christine. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for asking me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've loved talking to you and I look forward to coming back again. And to your listeners, thank you for listening.